Welcome back. I'm your host, Mohammed Bey. Welcome to the third season of the Trade Brokers Diaries. On this program, I want to open the mailbag and answer a few queries about questions related to international trade brokerage from two individuals who wrote to me recently. The first is a young woman. She wrote me at my account at LinkedIn, and I'm going to let you see the email and let you see what the response was. So let's take a look. And before we begin, let me say that sometimes people write to me in English, but sometimes their writing is not always exact. I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot here, so I won't use any names. But in any case, I'm going to read their emails the way they wrote them so that you can get a clear perspective of what they themselves were saying. And also I'll give you my perspective on what I think they should have done. Let's take a look at the first email. Thanks for accepting my contact. I saw a couple of your videos on YouTube on scrap metal trading. I was really impressed. Your videos are quite informative. I have myself worked in a scrap metal trading firm for 3 years. We were generally buying from UK and Europe. The one thing that worries me the most in this trade is finding good, reliable sources of scrap metal, as quality issues and claims are a big hassle. How can one identify the right sources? Thanks again for accepting my contact. Best regards. Now, in the return email, this is what I told her. Thanks for contacting me. I'm glad you enjoyed the videos. There are only a few ways I can think of to be sure you are dealing with a solid seller. First, go visit the site yourself. This is an obvious one for sure and the hardest to do in many cases. But when it can be done, it should be an objective to consider. Second, have a man on the ground. If you know someone in the city where the scrap yard is, have them go and take a look. Pay them a few dollars if you must. It may prove to be a sound investment. Number 3, check the state or local government. They may be able to tell you if the yard is running a legitimate operation. 4, Google map the address. Many times frauds will give the address of an apartment instead of a scrapyard. Number 5, ask them to send you dated photos of the yard. This is always a problem, but it's a good idea as many people do not want to be bothered proving who they are. At the least, they can hold up today's newspaper with a photo of themselves there in the scrap yard. Behind them, nice big mountains of scrap in the background. If they fail any of these acid tests, then maybe it would be best to look elsewhere for a supplier. Contact me with any other questions. Mohammed. Now, as you can see, the young lady had some serious questions about international trade related to scrap metal. And my response to her was what I would have done if I were in her shoes. In fact, I have been in that position on previous occasions, and these are some of the things that I have done. Now, there are no hard and fast rules about international trade. What works for you may not work for other people. You may live too far away from a potential source of a product, or there may be a language barrier, or there may be costs involved. There are all kinds of scenarios. You may have to think outside the box in order to get the job done. But don't be afraid to ask questions, because a second opinion is always a good idea. Now, a young man also wrote to me. He had concerns about brokerage and also commissions. This is the email that he sent me, and this is what I had to say to him. Let's take a look. Hello, Mohammed. Watching your videos, and believe me, they are really educating and interesting. I recently started into brokering business due to my contact with my fellow friends. I am into an inquiry of cement supply from China to West Africa. Got the quotes and were forwarded to the buyers, and they reverted back. to negotiate payment terms of 30% advance on the first order, which is not accepted. Awaiting for a response from the sellers now. Meanwhile, I am offered commission from the seller, but could you please advise what is the correct procedure to secure a commission from the seller if the order goes through? I saw your video that the NC&D is useless. Then what should I follow to enable secure? Thank you. Regards. Now you can see in this email he's talking about commissions, and my advice to him is, as you heard, get a relationship with the individual company, with the seller, and get a contract or a one-page written agreement, something that you can have in writing, something that you can hold up in a court and say, this is what was agreed to. It's not the same thing as being right there in the room. It's certainly better than an NC&D, and it really depends again on the kind of relationship that you have with the individual company, how strong that relationship is. That is the test of whether or not you're going to get paid. If you're dealing with people who are on the other side of the world and you're just a broker and they just met you on the internet, chances are you're not going to have as good a relationship unless there is a compelling reason for them to pay you. Many companies, in all truthfulness, don't want to pay a broker just to bring in another broker. What they really want is direct contacts. If you're going to bring in somebody, let's say you have a company that's making a product and they're looking for distribution. Well, for example, they're not going to want you to bring in another broker who's then going to bring in some sort of distribution center. They're going to want to have you bring them the distribution people, particularly the decision maker in that organization. This example works well with scrap metal, finished products, just about anything. Keep these ideas in mind and you'll prosper. One thing I would like to address before we continue has to do with the concerns of the young man with regard to doing business in China. You need to understand that China is a very, very different culture from what you might be familiar with in, say, the West, that is in Western Europe, in Britain, Canada, and the United States. Unlike Western nations, China is not a nation state. It is a civilization state, and it has very different Confucian values from the West. While it is true that there is corruption, violence, and excessive pollution in China right now, all of that has been caused by a massive compression of events. The Industrial Revolution took 150 to 200 years in the West, starting primarily in Germany and Western Europe and in Britain. In China, this same process of industrialization took only 3 decades. So you need to understand that if things look strange to you in China, if they look like a mixture of hell and heaven, if the people you're dealing with come across as a mixture of saints and angels, well, there's a reason for that, because things are moving very rapidly in China and things are changing in China very rapidly. So you need to understand what's going on there, and you need to understand the underlying civilization and cultural values. For example, there is something in China called guanji, or personal relationships. These are vitally important when doing business in China. Do not underestimate the importance of personal relationship building processes in China. People are comfortable building relationships with honorable people who show respect to those to whom respect is due, frankly. Now, as with all relationships are unequal, and as such it's important that if you wish to appear honorable, you need to show respect not only to seniority, but to age and educational background in China. This may also go for other cultures such as Japan or South Korea. For example, in China, managers tend to be directive, which reflects basic Confucian concepts of hierarchical nature of society. In return for loyalty, the boss is expected to show consideration and interest in all aspects of the subordinate's life. If you're doing business with a subordinate and you know that they have a boss who's waiting for them to give results, you should be concerned that you may not get the answers that you're looking for right away. You may not get a yes right away, because in China, saving face, in this case, in both directions, to the subordinate above and the client below, may be very important. It's important that you do not make people lose face in front of their group or in front of their boss. Always respect seniority. Do not openly disagree with people, even in conference calls or in Skype calls. If you want to disagree with people, try to do it as diplomatically as possible. Do as many favors for potential business people as possible, but you don't have to suck up or brown nose or engage in corruption in order to do this. Debts, for example, must always be repaid if you should happen to be in a scenario where you're going to be involved in loaning someone money, for example. Business cards should be formally exchanged at the beginning of meetings if you are fortunate enough to get to China or to go to a Chinese Chamber of Commerce and conduct business in their environment. Treat the business card with great respect, as the card is in effect the man or woman themselves. And finally, if you are on the ground in China, for example, meetings are often long and seemingly without clear objectives. Now, very often the meetings are an exercise in relationship building, and the aim of the meeting is to move the relationship rather than any specific business task forward. So you're going to have a lot of patience. Now, I know there's probably a lot of cynical people out there who say business is business, especially in China, and that may be true, it may not be, I can't swear to it. But for doing business for the first time, particularly at great distance, you should observe these tips wherever possible. Again, write to me. My email address, as always, is right here. And for all of you YouTube and other file sharing and video sharing services, please always comment, rate, and subscribe to my videos. Also, I'd like to introduce to you, as promised in our last video, the Trade Brokers Diaries news service, a daily updated news blog featuring information and news about international trade from around the world. I hope that you will go there and read carefully and drink deeply every day. That's all for this video. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm your host, Mohammed Bey, for the Trade Brokers Diaries, saying thank you very much and see you at the next video. Take care. This program is sponsored by MultiPure Water Purification Systems. MultiPure water purifiers for home and business. MultiPure believes that one of the best ways to improve your health and the health of your family is to improve the quality of your drinking water. Visit our sponsor's website for more details. And by the International Import-Export Service Directory, containing hundreds of listings you can use to find products and services for your business. Follow the link to our website for more details. Thanks for visiting our website. Take care.